through prayer with Mary has changed my ways and my perspective, and has given me a lot more patience.
When I was feeling sad and thought,
And that Jesus is present in the Eucharist, and that Mary is always there with Jesus.
me under your mantle, and you
She always wants us to focus on her Son. The prayer of the Rosary is about her Son. So she brought me back to him.
thank you, Mary, my mother.
Hi, my name is Guida, and I was born in South Africa, growing up from Portuguese family. And life growing up as a little child, we used to go occasionally to Mass. The prayer life would just be myself doing a little bit of prayers at home as a child, but nothing serious. And Mum and Dad, they had issues and they had problems. But I just felt Mary always speaking to me and guiding me and protecting me. And I would hear her voice all the time. And then eventually, Mum would talk about the Rosary with her sisters, but never say it at home. And eventually, I had the need and the want to pray the Rosary. And eventually, the prayers that I knew, I would say it on each and every bead, and even on the cross. It would take me about 3 hours to say the Rosary, until eventually my mum bought me a little book on Our Lady of Fatima. And that's how I started learning to say it properly, which would take me a half an hour compared to 3 hours. And then eventually, as we grew up, I would go mainly to church. When I could drive, I would be the one going to church on my own. And then one day I was speaking to my mum in the kitchen, and we were talking about life and talking about God. And then all of a sudden, I looked towards the lounge. It was an open plan kitchen. And I looked towards the lounge, and there was a small little Our Lady of Fatima, and it was in like a vase type of thing. And the Lady of Fatima was so tiny, you could hardly see, and she was very pale, so you would never notice it. And then all of a sudden, it just glowed so brightly. Her whole mantle was so blue, and all I could do was tell my mum, "Mum, look." And the way I actually told her to look, it's almost as if I had seen a ghost, but it wasn't. It was Our Lady beaming brightly, and my mum could see it too. And both of us were just in awe. And I said, "Mum, we need to pray the Rosary now." And I ran to my room to get the Rosary for myself and for my mum. And we both, in front of that small little statue that was still so bright, we just fell onto our knees and we prayed the Rosary.
Lovely lady dressed in blue, teach me how to pray. God was once your little boy, tell me what to say. Did you lift him up sometimes gently on your knee? Did you sing to him the way that my mother does to me? Did you hold his hand at night? Did you ever try telling stories of the world? Or when did he cry? small little things that happen. And do the angels' wings make a noise? Can he hear me if I speak low? Can he understand me now? You know, lovely lady, tell me, for you know.
So from that day onwards, Mum and I would say the Rosary. Especially Mum would never miss one day without saying the Rosary. Because my mum would go overseas quite often and my dad would be working all the time and my brothers would be scattering around doing their own thing, I always felt alone. And one day I just said, I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. Does God want me to become a nun? I'll do that immediately. If I'm supposed to get married, then show me who I need to get married. Then one day it was one of my birthdays, and I said to Mum, Mum, take me to the hospital where you gave birth to me, because in that hospital was a chapel. And upon the consecration of the bread and wine into the body and blood of Jesus Christ, and as the priest was holding up the host, I asked God, if I am to be married, to please allow my future husband to be waiting for me outside, or to then become a nun. But I needed to hear God's voice saying, this is your calling, which I didn't hear anything. And then I clean forgot about what I had asked for, and hold and behold, my future husband was waiting for me outside. I had met him once before through a friend of mine, and nothing came out of it. And then when he was waiting for me, he obviously said hello, and I said hello. And then he asked if my mother was my sister, my older sister, because she looks very young. And I was so angry with him. How dare he could say that? But yes, and from there onwards, a few days later, then we went out, and eventually we got married in 1999, and then in 2009 we came to Australia. Throughout our married life, we've never ever had any children. And then one day we decided to foster children. And our 3 beautiful children that we have now are foster children. And before we received them, we were doing the course to see if we could foster children. And on the very last course, 15 minutes before the last ended, to then decide, are we going for it or not? I went into prayer while everybody was talking, and I said, please let me know, what is it that you want us to do? Always asking the will of God. What is it that He wants us to do? And asking Mary as well to help me, because I'm not a mother, and I'm now in my 30s, not now, but then in my 30s. And what do I know about bringing up children? I just need to decide, and we need to make an earnest decision about that. And then eventually I just heard this sweet, loving voice saying to me, this is your calling. And we never looked back. So that was a few years back. We had a child, 2 boys that came into our lives in 2012, 6 days before Christmas. And we had to run around trying to get beds and all that for the children. And the oldest one wasn't 3 yet, and now he's 12. The middle one he was 6 days before his first birthday. And then 5 months later, we received their sister, which was six days old, straight from hospital. And I couldn't do that without God in our lives and without Mary teaching me what to do. and the confidence and the love and the hope and the trust that we have. If it wasn't for that, I don't think we would be where we are today with those children. I was always looking through what God wanted me to do and what other prayers can I do. So eventually I got hold of Queen of Peace Media on the internet, as well as Countdown to the Kingdom. And through that I found the Flame of Love. And somehow Mary's just ignited the Rosary again for me, and the love and the passion that I have for the Rosary now. It's utterly beautiful.
Mary, I give you my heart. Mary, I give you my heart. Set it on fire with love for Jesus, with love for Jesus, with love for Jesus.
Through prayer with Mary has changed my ways and my perspective, and has given me a lot more patience. At one stage, Mary was always calling me to do the Flame of Love Rosary, and then I felt sick. I was so sick that I was dizzy, completely dizzy. And I kept on asking, why the Flame of Love Rosary? Why? And eventually, Jesus was the one who showed me that it will actually blind Satan. And somehow God has called me to pray to blind evil. I know it might sound abstract, but it's true. This is what really happened to me. I was reading one of the devotional books from somebody else, and I asked God, what is it that you would like me to pray for? What is it that you'd like me to do? He said, read this line, and it said, love me more. I cried because I thought I was loving God more, and I thought I was doing the right thing. And he just said, love me more. And I said, how? How do you want me to love you more? And then that's when the Flame of Love Rosary came about. And I said, why? Why the Flame of Love Rosary and not the normal rosary? And then he showed me in a vision of me in this room. And in this room was a pentagon on the ground. And I could just see people, but they had long robes and hoods, and I couldn't see their faces, but they were chanting, but it wasn't a good chant. It was quite frightening. And all Jesus said to me was, look at me, look into my eyes. And I kept on saying yes. And I kept on concentrating on God and looked into his eyes. As I was praying the rosary, he kept on saying, concentrate on each and every word you are saying in the rosary, like the Hail Mary, each and every word, until I couldn't feel anyone around me in that particular vision, in that room. And at that time, it was also early in the morning, and the children were getting ready for school, and you know how chaotic a house can be, and I couldn't hear them either. And every time when I did hear noises, Jesus would say to me, look at me, concentrate on me. And every time I did that, I didn't hear a single thing. And then as I was praying the rosary, in my vision, I levitated a little bit off the ground. Then a beam of light came from the top through me and out of each and every follicle in your skin. The light came out. And that is what was blinding Satan. And that's how he explained to me how the Flame of Love Rosary would blind Satan. And till today, I pray for all those that are doing evil, for their conversion and for their salvation. Because God had told me, when he showed me a satanic worshipper, gave me that vision of a satanic worship, and I said, what? I'm not going to pray for him. And God just kept quiet. And then he said to me afterwards, but he's my son too. I cried again. I wept, because that's who we need to pray for. It's for each and every one, not to be afraid of all that is evil, but to pray for them, to change, for their conversion. Because that's what we are meant to be doing, is praying for each other, for love. And Mary's taught me to love, and through love is what will conquer everything. Just like she is our mother, she wants not only ours, but everyone, even those that are doing evil in this world. She wants to save everyone through her son. So she always brings us always to her son, to the fruit of the cross of Jesus, so that we can all change. We are not perfect. We will never be perfect. I think the only time we'll be perfect is when we're in heaven with God. We've all got our negatives and positives, but as long as we're praying for each other for well-being, but with love, it will be conquered. Ever since my children have done their sacraments, reconciliation, confirmation, and First Holy Communion, I became more involved in helping out with the sacramental group. And so what we've decided to do as a group is a few ladies would take the children and take them aside and teach the children the sacraments. But then we also felt a need for parents. Sometimes if you're not really devoted or practicing Catholic, you lose a lot. So we've decided that I would take the parents and somehow tell the parents what the children will be learning that week. It eventually leads to it's almost as if we're evangelizing with the parents, and hopefully they'll become practicing Catholics. The questions that come from there, talking about Mary, talking about what she's done in my life, and that she's always been a part of my life, and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, depending on what sacrament we're talking about. You can see in the parents' eyes that they are wanting more. So we have now an hour session on Sundays in between the two masses, so that they can have either an opportunity to go to Mass before the teaching or after. And we always incorporate the Mass, and we always encourage the parents to go to Mass as well. And we talk about the meaning of the Mass, that it's not just I'm going to Mass to receive. It's not about that. It's what can I give? What can I offer for the Mass, for others, and to Jesus? And just letting them understand what the Mass is all about, and that Jesus is present in the Eucharist, and that Mary is always there with Jesus. So Mary will always be in the sanctuary with a priest next to him. We don't see it physically, but spiritually she's always there, always at the foot of the cross of Jesus. If you read in the Bible, she's there at the foot of the cross with Jesus, with John, with the Apostle John. So she's always bringing us to Jesus, and Jesus always brings us to Mary. And also, they'll also bring maybe a special saint, because part of our prayer of the Creed is in communion with the saints as well. So my special saint is Saint Teresa, and she's done wonderful things to me too. And also Saint John Paul II. Through him and through both Saint Teresa, they healed me at one stage. And Mary, our Blessed Mother, she will teach us. She's taught me to pray through others as well, and through little books, and she can do the same to each and every one of you. Just trust and believe that we have this beautiful Mother in heaven that is watching over us all the time, and she's so loving, and she's wanting what is good for us.
Our Lady of Fatima will go down as the greatest of Marian apparitions in history. It all began on May 13th in the year 1917 when 3 shepherd children, Lucia dos Santos, her cousins Francisco Marto and Jacinta Marto, witnessed a vision of the Virgin Mary standing in front of them in the fields of Cova de Iria. They received messages of peace and of prayer, and they even saw a vision of hell. Many thousands of people began to gather in that area, and they saw the children there seeing the Virgin Mary, the Blessed Mother of God. These messages were distributed to the faithful, made it all around the world, making Fatima the greatest of all Marian devotions. The greatest miracle that happened related to Fatima was the Great Sun Miracle, which occurred on October 13th, in which the thousands of people there who had been gathered to hear those messages of Our Lady and to witness a miracle were drenched in a rainstorm, and they looked up to the sky and they saw the sun growing in size and spinning and descending on them. Was it mass hallucination? I'm not quite sure. The people there who were drenched previously were instantaneously dried, and people witnessed this miracle from many miles away.
You can't always. This is the death. Remarkably.
Turn back towards God. Rise up.